Okay, so we're going to move on to the final parallel session of the conference before we have the final keynote. We'll have a quick 10-minute break after this and then back in here for the final keynote from Scotland's Macker, Kathleen Jamie. But first up we have Green Dreams, which is focusing on two projects that were funded by CILIPS Research and Green Libraries Scotland grant funds, St Ninians High School and the University of Strathclyde. And the speakers will tell you a bit more about those projects. But we were delighted to fund them, both incredible pieces of work. We have Professor Gobinda Chowdhury, who is Professor of Information Science in the Department of the University of Strathclyde and has been involved in teaching and research in information science for over 25 years. We also have Ellie, who is Research Assistant at the University of Strathclyde and a recent graduate in Information and Library Studies, and who will be starting her PhD in October. And we also have Donna Baird, who has been a school librarian for over 30 years with a professional interest in Holocaust education, critical thinking, reading for pleasure, and of course green libraries, and works across two of the largest state schools in Scotland. We're delighted to have them all. We'll just invite them all up in turn. So first of all, Gobinda, would you like?
Thank you, Sean. Hello, everyone. This project the acronym is LASTS, Libraries as an Agent for Sustainable Thinking. So this was funded by CILIPS, but it has its root on another project which was funded by SLIC, Scottish Librarian Information Council, which we just finished in March. So the data that we will present builds on that SLIC-funded project, and there are three things that, well, I'll finish in a minute, and then Ellie will actually go through the slides because she knows more than I do. She has done the work. This is all professors do actually. They only talk. You will see that there are three things that prompted actually both these projects. We felt that libraries across Scotland probably are doing quite a lot around sustainable development, sustainable thinking, climate change, etc. But there has not been any kind of platform or any tool for capturing and recording that data. And also, we felt that there has not been, and this is not only in Scotland, all over the world, there has not yet been any standard framework for mapping the library's activities onto the targets of sustainable development goals and climate change in particular. So that's my own area of research. We wrote a book that came out published by Facet, that's displayed there. And I also wrote a paper which just appeared yesterday in Journal of Information Science, showing how libraries' activities can actually be mapped and recorded. So that's the second point that you will see from Ellie's presentation. And from there, actually, where libraries can play a major role as an agent for sustainable thinking. And that's what is important. So libraries have long been playing a major role in education, literacy, and various other forms of sort of preparing people in addressing everyday life challenges and so on and so forth. Climate change is a challenge for everyone. And I strongly believe that libraries can do quite a lot and can really act as an agent for sustainable development. So these two projects, ours, as well as the project that Donna is going to present, you will see some evidences of what we already have been doing, and hopefully that will create some kind of interest and inspiration amongst you. So Ellie, please start. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm going to talk you through the research project. I'm going to tell you about the findings and what this means for Scotland's green libraries. So our research questions were as follows. What role do public and school libraries have in promoting and working towards the Sustainable Development Goals? How do these libraries contribute towards meeting the SDGs? How do libraries and library staff learn about the SDGs, and which initiatives, policies, programs are the most effective at meeting these goals? We also asked what some of the biggest challenges are and how these can be overcome. We made two surveys. We had one for school libraries and one for public libraries. They each had 5 sections, asking questions on several themes, including library services, library activities, thoughts on sustainability, staff training and awareness, and about the challenges and opportunities too. They were open for approximately 6 weeks last summer, and they were a really good opportunity for library staff to share their thoughts and experiences on green libraries, as well as gathering some key data, which I'll move on to in a second. So we got a pretty good response from the survey. They covered a total of 23 local authority areas, which is estimated to include 207 of the public libraries in the country. We were aware that there was perhaps a lack of school libraries response, but this is probably due to school libraries not actually having librarians, which speaks for itself. So moving on to the results. The data revealed that a third of public library services currently have a climate policy or action plan, while 38% are currently working on one. Only 6% of school libraries have a policy, and 30% are currently working on it. This suggests that climate action is more of a concern for public libraries than school libraries at the moment, and clearly shows that public libraries are further on in their sustainability journey. This same point is reflected in the length of time that libraries have been working on climate action and engagement, with the majority of public libraries having been working on it for several months, while school libraries are a little bit behind and are mostly in the planning stages. So looking at the most common areas of action amongst the libraries that we surveyed, we can see that some of the key activities that have been undertaken, this chart here shows that for public libraries, reducing the building energy was the most popular, as was reducing the amount of waste, sourcing green alternatives, and providing sustainability book collections and information. For school libraries, the main activity is providing access to the information. An important revelation within the data was the availability of climate and sustainability training for staff in libraries. Only a third of staff in public libraries were aware of any, and just 11% of school library staff knew about this. Moving on to the challenges that are faced by libraries in implementing sustainability action. In public libraries, the main hurdles are lack of money and human resources. And in school libraries, it's more based towards being unsure of what to do and a lack of knowledge and expertise. This is again reflected in the data following the survey question asking about the type of support that would most be desired. Public libraries highlighted desire for more funding, practical guides or tools, and more access to climate training. School libraries also highlighted training and access to guides or tools as being helpful as well. Here's some pretty nice quotes that came out from the survey. My favourite one being that libraries are a vital social infrastructure. So moving on to the second part of the project, we did some interviews involving several volunteers, asking them about staff training, resource requirements, policies, and the biggest challenges on the topic of sustainability. I conducted 6 interviews, and these encompass participants from school libraries, public libraries, academic libraries, and some wider sector organisations too, including Scottish Book Trust and Creative Carbon Scotland. From these interviews, we identified the main challenges. So physical infrastructure and carbon emissions. A lot of library buildings tend to be big and old, which makes it really difficult to heat efficiently and also cool efficiently. Information. Some library staff are not aware on how to access information and what to do, how to do it, and what's going on in other libraries. Money and time, an obvious one. There's a lack of funding from authorities, which means there could be a lack of people to get the job done. And also just having it being a priority. Local authorities might not include libraries in climate action plans, or might not have a proper understanding of culture and the importance of that. The participants had various opinions on what type of training would be most beneficial for library staff. Carbon literacy is generally considered a good starting point. We had a really good talk earlier from Lara, that was great. An awareness of climate justice is also key, paying attention to other SDGs as well as climate. Resilience is also important for climate anxiety, and it was also suggested that training needs to be adaptable to each library service's specific context, for example, a school library or an academic library. The training needs to be quick and easy, and another key thing that was highlighted was how to talk to children about climate issues in a way that's honest but not terrifying. Thinking about resource requirements, it was highlighted the need for tools such as carbon calculators, audit tools and tracking tools. These need to be easy to use and show clearly what is happening and what can be done to improve. Practical guidance would also be useful, short and snappy resources to disseminate to staff and users as well. The sharing of resources is key, being able to see what others are doing, to communicate best practice and share knowledge. And in schools, the content needs to be fun and integrated into the curriculum for the children. Local authority climate action plans have good intentions, but some of them underappreciate the influence that libraries can have. With policies, it's important not to look at climate change in isolation. We need to consider social impacts alongside the other SDGs as well. Collaboration, ambition, and climate justice need to be at the heart of any policies, which can be essential for smaller institutions to understand their role and what they can do. It was also noted that libraries are already doing so much for the climate agenda compared to other organisations who may not be pulling their weight. And here's some quotes that we got from the interviews. Some really lovely things here. Everybody's in the environment, so surely green issues should be at the heart of what everybody is doing. Moving on from the original project, we've been fortunate enough to do another project, the last project, working alongside CILIPS. We've developed these posters to be displayed in school and public libraries. The aim of these is to provide some basic information on sustainability thinking and awareness of environmental sustainability, to get users thinking about what they can do to make a difference, how they can change their behaviour to be more sustainable. These are currently on their way to some schools for some pilot testing, so keep an eye out to hear how that's going. Perfect, and now I think we're going to Donna, unless we have any questions right now. You can answer, yeah.
I have my own slide for my own project. There is only one bag in the document. All right, thank you very much for coming along. I have a very loud voice, so it'll be, maybe I should stand quite far back and hopefully not fall off the stage. So I am incredibly proud to say that the project that I'm working on is the only school library in the United Kingdom that has been given Green Libraries funding, and that is down to the fact that CILIPS took a punt on me, which was very kind of them, but I'm now here to pay the price for it. So I work across two incredibly large schools, but the project I'm going to talk about is from my base school, and a school I've worked at for a long time, which is St Ninians High School in East Renfrewshire. I've had a long, successful relationship with the Learning Support Department at the school, and I've always felt that they're a wee bit like the kind of poor relation to every other department. When I first started working there, all that time ago, we must have had maybe about 50 or 60 pupils that were really being targeted by that department, plus a few kind of odds and ends that we were looking at. Now within the School of 2000 we have over 550 pupils that have ASN profiles. So often a school like mine has a wrong reputation, you know, leafy suburbs, high achieving and all that. But it's certainly a school that we need to really kind of look at how are we supporting all of our pupils within it. I love a tagline, so it took me a good afternoon to come up with Seeds to Success, and I'm very pleased with it. Don't steal it. So our origin story, where did we start off with? As I say, I work in a huge school and I'm only there half the time, so I thought I'd better do an audit. What are people already doing in the school, so I don't start something and step on anybody else's toes. And a good place to go, and a good place I advise at the moment, is to use social media to keep a note of what you're actually doing. I do that a lot, I tweet a lot. Feel free to follow me at St Ninians Lib. I retweet everything, I take bots, I don't care. So I actually looked through what the school had been doing. We have separate accounts for different departments. and we were doing an awful lot, which kind of worried me a little bit at the start. Why are you trying to kind of reinvent the wheel? And this is particularly with our learning support department. So we're very lucky. We are a school in a park, across from a different park. So what we do is a lot of kind of green things anyway. We don't have to go very far. We don't need risk assessment forms. We don't need to pay for a bus. We just step outside the school and the park is there. So you can see a lot of the things that we do already. We have bees, real bees, that are in Rookingland Park. The pupils go along and we take care of them. They've asked me to go along and I said no, not that kind of thing. So you can see the shapes and sizes of all the pupils that get involved in the beekeeping, and that goes right the way through from first year right up to some of our advanced higher pupils who do it for their sciencey things. I don't know, it's too technical, I'm a librarian. We also have a Bees Knees cafe where we sell the honey, the products that are grown within the school as well, and we also have a partnership with some adults with additional learning needs who come in and work with our young people on gardening projects. So I kind of thought, why am I setting up something new? Because they didn't have any books. Any books that they had in learning support were kind of cast-offs from me, and we often talk about equality, but I think the important word is always equity, and out of anything, these are the pupils that actually need the most. So I thought, why not set them up a wee library, but a good quality library? And I'm going to call it Seeds to Success, because I do like a tagline. So this is where we are now. We have our wee mini portable library. It's on wheels. At the top corner there you can see the garden area that we have. So the library can be wheeled out to the garden space on the 3 days of sunshine we have in Scotland. I'm very proud of that stamper. I brought it with me today. If you want anything stamped, I'll stamp it for you. We had a celebration with cake, and because it's a Catholic school, there's an obligatory statue of the Virgin Mary there for you to have a look at. We also have our indoor and outdoor bean bags. Can I tell you, that's murder to source. And also because you go through a local authority, I couldn't get it from Beanbags R Us, that is a company. I had to go through somebody else, increase the cost, but there we go. And also every pupil that takes part gets one of these, which is a seed diary. The reason it's called a seed diary is that the paper is infused with seeds. So the idea is that pupils will read any of the books that are here, which are often to do with things like mental health as well as green issues, colouring in. Some of my autistic boys said, you must get books on trains. So I have a disproportionate number of books on trains. Sourcing the seed paper, again, was really difficult. I did find some on Amazon, but I was asked what kind of seeds were they, and it was poppy seeds, and I just had a Breaking Bad vision that I would be giving the most vulnerable pupils in our school some opportunity to grow illicit materials, and that Mrs. Baird would suddenly have her own island off the coast of, I don't know, South America based on that. So these are, they're wildflowers, nothing more than wildflowers. And again, we had to source them from a wedding company, and all the paper inside is recyclable. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to plant these, and hopefully we'll be able to see the flowers grow, or something grow, who knows what will grow. Another lovely element of it is that whenever I get an author into school, or when you get somebody in to visit, it's all about bums on seats. You want as many people as possible. That doesn't work for these young people. I'll often have 100 people, or sometimes up to 300 young people listening to an author. That wouldn't work for them. That's the worst kind of environment for them. So I had 2 different events, and if you ever need anybody to work with additional support pupils, can I thoroughly recommend Victoria Williamson, who is absolutely fantastic. We tied into 2 of her books. One, you can see there, The Boy with the Butterfly Mind, which deals with ADHD in families. The other one was a book called Nora's Ark, which deals with homelessness, families and the environment, always to tie back into our green issues. Sure, yeah, with the video.
Have you got sound with it?
Well, you might hear me laughing in the background, but I can laugh here instead and you get the real thing.
There we go.
That's me laughing.
You get over yourself.
All of elephant's toothpaste.
Do you see all of the bubbles that are coming out here? That's all of the bubbles that have come out because I have brought...
So that was actually a group of 9 pupils, Had it not been for the extra funding, I would never have been able to do that. And they would, I tell you what, those two, well, she might have, Joy might have stood up to the front, but that boy there, he would never have come up to the front. And the amount of engagement we were getting from pupils was absolutely fantastic. Certainly something they would never have done in a group of 50 or 60. You can read this for yourself and I'll kind of talk over it a little bit. So, it's a very light touch I have to do with the library. It's the hub for the support for learning is near the school library, but I'm not in there all the time. It kind of self-runs, and that's the point of it. The pupils and the staff who are in that department run it for themselves. So I just in a wee wander by, I spoke to one of the teachers. I said, how are you getting on with some of those books? Because every time I go in, it's an absolute mess, and that's a good thing. Because if it was neat and tidy, it means they're not using it. The fact it's an absolute mess means that they are using it, means that they're picking up stuff. I don't know how to put it back properly, but it doesn't matter, that's what we do. But she told me about this, and this is just one interaction with one member of staff that I asked for. I don't know how many other little tiny interactions that are going on every single day, because we have over 70 titles available in that space. This is one of our favourites, or maybe I should have read it before I stood up. All Birds Have Anxiety, well worth having a wee look at that one, and I'm not the bird. Well worth having it in your libraries as well. A lot of them are kind of easy reads as well, some are a wee bit more developed. But it was absolutely fantastic just to hear that from her, and how emotional she got from it. The whole project's been really emotional for a lot of staff. So, if you are thinking of applying for it, again, another wee mantra of mine is let it be their decision, let it be CILIPS' decision. I could have talked myself out of it a number of times, but I didn't, because I had other people to help and support me. Often as a school librarian, you do things on your own because it is just you, you're a lone worker. But because I did an audit right at the start, I had people around me going, oh, they'll have to give you the money. I mean, look at it, they'll just have to. And if they don't, well, we'll have to do something about it. We'll make sure that they give you the money. Oh, okay. So don't... though they were really relieved when we got the money. Don't go alone. I always look for a critical friend who's more friend than critical. I think that'd be useful for you. That's not me by any stretch of the imagination. My targets were a wee bit too big, but I think we've met them in slightly different ways. I thought the hub was going to be more of a drop-in centre. It's not, it's much more targeted, but that actually works in a different kind of way that still meets what I want it to do. Be really practical, know what you can do. I would have great plans about doing 10,000 things, but I know I can't. Many years ago I got SLIF funding to run little mini libraries throughout the school, and based on my knowledge from that, I knew what worked and what didn't work. So be really practical with yourself. I also have committed going forward £100 of my budget each year to making sure that it'll all be kind of nice, new and up-to-date books as well. But also I saw what I was given as a springboard. Another one of my favourites is Shy Bairns Getting These Sweets. So I thought, right, they've given me money. Who else can give me money? Hello, Scottish Book Trust. Could you give me money too? And they said yes. And that meant that I was able to extend the project. So when Victoria came in, she signed a book for every single child who was there, so they got to take it away. Plus she signed extra books that we were now going to send home to children who find it difficult to attend school. Certainly would never have shown up at that event, so they're going to get a wee book in the post, all because we were able to knock it on. So just because you get the funding there doesn't mean you can't go and ask other people to add on to it. So what's our future? So I already said that I'm going to commit to buying more books. There's always more books out there. I think I really need to talk to my PSAs and get proper training for them and an in-service day, because often we don't know what's already out there. I think I'll produce a wee newsletter for teachers as well. Again, they don't know what's in that hub, so I'm going to make it much more visible. Every year we have new pupils. I've met all of my primary 7 pupils. I've got 360 primary 7 pupils coming up next year at just that one school, and a number of their issues are really quite significant. So how can I support them? What can I do for them? And I don't know. I don't know where the future will go with that, and that's part of the joy of it. That's why I really am happy with it. And you should buy all the Sackboys Club books as well. And I thought this tied in really nicely. Just plant it, you never know where it's going to go, and that's part of the joy of what we're doing. I'd also have to say personally, A huge thanks to CILIPS because they have been so supportive in this scheme. A number of emails I have sent to yourself and Kirsten about this have been more than one. And again, just keep going for it, be really positive. And I've been included in a number of events and was able to meet Ellie and Gobinda as well, which was absolutely lovely. To have school libraries included in such a framework is really, really important. So we need to keep doing that. Okay, cease to success. I can stamp your wee hands if you want. Thank you.
Thank you. So Donna, if you just stay there, and I'll maybe, just if there is any questions, in fact, I'll pass this mic down if we have any questions, so just a minute. So first of all, yeah, thank you so much. So good to see that fantastic research. Thank you to all the work that Ellie and Gobinda have put into gathering all that data and the posters, and we're going to keep developing that and keep working on that together. We're delighted to provide that funding, and the same goes for Donna. It shows you just, we're not a huge amount, we don't have a huge amount to give away, but with a little money, how far that can go, and with a bit of inspiration and creativity. The Green Libraries grants are open just now, so just to flag that up, they close on the 14th of June. So you have just over a week to apply. If you want to have a look at that, look on the website, go on the CILIPS website, look at Green Libraries grants, and apply for a pot of funding. You know, we will try and fund as many as we can, or we'll fund a couple. It depends on the bids that we get, but we'll have a look at them. And the research fund will be launched later in the year. So we've got a couple of minutes for any questions. Does anyone want to ask anything about either of the projects, or you know, Green Libraries grants in more general terms? Everybody quite happy? Okay. No worries. I think you got absolutely all the information you probably needed anyway from both of those presentations. Do keep following them. I know we're probably getting late in the day now, so everybody's feeling quite hot. So listen, I just want to say thank you to all three presenters. Fantastically informative, and it was a joy to fund you, and we'll keep funding work like that as long as we can. So can we please just say thanks again.